So I introduced this theme for the month of practice, and I've been contemplating what is practice. Um, it's supposedly what I teach and what I coach is spiritual practice. And as always, the things that we take the most for granted are often the very rocks, we kind of want to look under right there at the foundation. And so I've been enjoying exploring this theme, and today I'm just going to share a few thoughts on how practice is not doing. I'm going to just throw out a few very short quotes from some of my teachers, which inspired what I'm about to talk about. My teacher, Nisargadatta, says, "Let go of the unreal, and the real will swiftly and smoothly step into its own." And so I've been thinking about practice as the time when we let go of the unreal and the aspects of our lives that reinforce falsehood, or even just, not necessarily in a super terrible negative sense, but just we release what is partial, what is temporary. Another quote from him that's been really helping me is, attachment destroys courage. So I'm going to talk about practice as non-attachment. He also says the only thing you have to give up is your addictions, which is really just another way of talking about our attachments. Addictions is just a kind of a stronger word, and at least for me has always had negative connotations, or very negative connotations. There's a lot of fear around that word for me in my life. But what, again, well, he means is let go of the unreal. The suffering that we experience, we learn, is directly, it's all linked up with that unreal. And so any reason that we come to spiritual practice will involve some version of what he's saying in those few quotes. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says, the master, which is his name for the enlightened being. The master does nothing and everything is done. And so I'm proposing, and as always, I want you to just mull this over for yourself and explore for yourself. But what if your practice time is really at heart and in essence not doing? And that all the techniques that we practice are really just something to do while you're not doing the unreal, while you're not doing attachments, while you're not doing your addictions, while you're breaking the cycle on your normal patterns and habits. We kind of also just need something to do over there. So we do, arrive, we breathe, we connect to care, we direct our attention, we go through steps. Yes, there is the potential to get attached or addicted to aspects of of the doing part of our practice. The non-doing is the place where the suffering can't click in. The addictions have nowhere to get snagged. Our attachments can't attach to the non-doing. And so as you explore some of this on your own, one inquiry could be around what is it that I am not doing when I am doing my practices? If you went on retreat, what is it that I didn't do the whole time I was there? Everything between your social media and, I don't know, eating the snack foods that you have at home or staying up too late watching TV, whatever it is. Notice that, we usually are paying attention to what we did. Gosh, it must have been all that yoga and meditation I did that made me feel so great. But actually, it's also, and maybe even more than the things that we do, what it is that we put down and rest on and stop doing. Now, I've been talking about sort of practice in general, but let's now talk really specifically about the meditation practice. And I will bring in one more um, one more little text that I love to reference, which is the Yoga Sutras, which is a manual on meditation, basically, and which is also called yoga. And though the physical is a little bit of a part of this, he's really talking about the this deeper internal practice that we do. And at the very beginning, he introduces this classical definition of yoga, or a definition of meditation, which maybe you've all heard by now, if not from me somewhere, but yogas citta vrtti nirodaha. Yoga is the nirodaha means the stopping, the ceasing, the quitting of the citta vritti. And citta means consciousness. There's lots of kinds of consciousness. He's specifically talking about the vritti, the spinning consciousness, the fluctuating or moving consciousness, it's sometimes called. And so, on the subtlest level, meditation and yoga are where we don't just put down our social media, and we don't just like stop eating donuts for 2 days, or whatever it is that you quit when I was giving that example of going on retreat, right? Every time that you meditate, we do these 20-minute sessions. For 20 minutes, you're not doing any of your bad habits. So you're not doing that outward stuff, the outward stuff, and you're not saying anything mean to somebody, or sending any, crappy emails. So we're not doing outwardly, but inwardly, at the very level of our consciousness, we stop messing with a particular kind of consciousness. And so the benefits come from, and you can celebrate and rejoice in this. Even if you sit down in meditation and the internal is crazy, you spent 20 minutes not eating potato chips. You spent 20 minutes not doing all this other stuff. And another inquiry one could do this week is like, yeah, well, I already said, what is it that you're not doing, right? And what are the things that you feel like in your life maybe are creating the most pain for you or toxicity for you? What feels the most addictive? And rejoice that just by sitting down for 20 minutes, you're not doing it. Sometimes for me, a practice might be doing a crossword puzzle, something that you'd be like, wait, that's spiritual practice? Well, it's, yeah, if whatever I'm addicted to or being drawn to is really strong and it's what I need to be not doing, I might need a very strong, thing to do while I'm not doing that other thing. For somebody who's getting over a really great codependency or a serious addiction, I might not say, well, why don't you just go in the woods and meditate and be completely silent for a while? I might say, why don't you go do something that's going to distract you for a few days while you detox or whatever? And I would throw that person a parade when they came out the other side, even if they didn't do this more, strict, formal, spiritual, all this spiritual stuff. It's spiritual in that you're not doing, you're not engaging in what's been hurting you. It's love and it's truth because you are stepping away from the old patterns. I'm just going to say a few more things. I want to say a few things about this yoga citta vritti nirodaha. Um, so I said at the very beginning, let go of the unreal and the real will step into its own. This is all a metaphor, of course. What he really means is, and he says this in many different ways in lots of different passages in the book, but the real is all that there is. The real and the true, we don't need to manufacture. Lao Tzu would kind of say it that like the Tao does that. That's not man or human's job. The Tao's doing it. It's doing an amazing job at it. And we could never even fathom how. And that's not our job either, to understand exactly how the Tao does what it does. But the point is, we already are here in this reality that's happening. And when we stop messing around with the citta vritti, we arrive at a different citta, a citta that's not spinning. That's not, and I'm going to give you like 3 different interpretations of what spinning means in a second. What already is. And so where you land when you let go of the unreal is just, oh, in the real, here I am. And so what are we doing? Why is it that we're not living there? Because we've got these citta vritti and we perpetuate them. So spinning could be spinning like, oh, twisted in yoga. Um, uh, Parvrita Trikonasana. So I need to, you hear Parvrita, Vrit, that's it. So twisted, that means twisted triangle. So the poses where we're twisted, right, are vrittis. And that's fine, it's okay. Chitta vritti aren't actually the enemy here, but the idea is don't think that this is straight. It's twisted. It's Aaron, it's my body or whatever. If you saw me and you saw the back of my head and I was twisted, you would know that's kind of that's a backwards version of Aaron. It's a manipulated version. That's not her in kind of her natural state. If I never untwisted, I would have some serious issues in my body and because it's not kind of how I'm designed to be all the time. So I can be there temporarily. We can mess around with those citta vritti from time to time. But to recognize all the time that they are vritti, they're twisted, they're not real in that deeper way or natural in that deeper way. So that's one definition. Twisted. Yeah. Another is spinning like a top. And if you've ever played with a top, it has a motion that eventually will stop on its own if you just leave it alone. And your thoughts are just like that too. It will just stop on its own, and and then there will be all these other things. The top is not the only thing in the room. It's usually probably not the most interesting toy in the room if you're a kid either. They're fine, they're great. But the point is, it's like, it's just another thing. And this is true of your thoughts. It's just another thing kind of moving around. When it has motion, it can be very distracting. And it can seem like it's got a lot of life. And if you want to engage with some thoughts, you push them around and, keep them moving. They'll keep moving as long as you keep pushing, right? And also to note that you can give it energy 2 ways. One, by like pushing it and trying to make it spin. And the other is by trying to stop it. And often when we try to stop it, right, we actually end up pushing it and continuing to give it energy. We end up just interacting with it. Whereas, this advice of just letting it spin until it stops. And then the third definition of that you might want to work with of what these chitta vritti are, spinning like a tale, like a web we weave, like a story. And the chitta vritti are real, but they're as real as the stories that we tell ourselves, and that is, in a sense, what they are. They are manipulations. They are reality, but reality that we have twisted, reality that we're kind of messing around with and giving energy to give them life. Um, and sort of like stories are like um, little ways of engaging with reality. Kind of a good story. I love a good story. I think stories are really important, but I'm going to have really huge problems if I believe that what I'm reading in this story is really happening right now out there. There these, I better go save these people, or giving. So this last kind of way of thinking about the chitta vritti reminds us to not get too caught up in our stories about ourselves or about others. In the meditation, we talked about shoulds. Shoulds are stories. The universe should be this way. Well, the Tao's already doing it the way the Tao is doing it, or God. You could just say God is doing it already. So what are your critiques for the Tao? Like, why do you think that you would do a better job than life? And really looking at that, and not as a way to then judge ourselves and be like, you idiot, but as a way to get to freedom, as a way to get to peace, as a way to say, hey, you can let go of the stories. You also don't have to hate the stories or get rid of the stories altogether. Just stop giving them so much energy or thinking that they are more real than they are. The only thing that you have to give up are your addictions to those stories, to that chitta vritti. And that's what we come to practice to do. I invite any questions. I invite discussion on this. So please go ahead and share those or comment those below the video.